How do you think this game three is going to go down between the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors?
Well, the looming narrative in this game is Draymond Green's suspension for the incident in game two. For those of you that did not see, Draymond Green was pushing on a break underneath the Kings basket, and it looked to be that Domantas Sabonis had grabbed his ankle to where then Draymond proceeded to press on his chest. It looked like he stomped it out, but he was limited from being able to move to where it was assessed as a technical foul for Sabonis and a common foul, as well as an ejection of a flagrant two foul for Draymond Green, again, who is now suspended for game three. We all know that Draymond Green's not going to fill up a stat sheet with 30, 40 points, but everything else that he does between being the physical enforcer, the rebounder, the stretch five big that they run in that super small death lineup, as they like to reference it or refer to it as, how he's able to bring the ball up court, distribute the basketball, and of course, just his defensive presence as a whole. When you take somebody like that away from the Warriors, who are already struggling to stop Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis from being effective on the offensive end, you're limited to what you're going to be able to do now. If you have to insert Kuminga, if you have to insert another guard, you're limited to what you can do if the Sacramento decides to go big. So I'm very, very complex, or should I say, I'm very, very confused as to why Draymond got suspended, as if the act that Domantas Sabonis wasn't warranted as a dirty play of its own, but that's neither here nor there. How game two ended, obviously, Draymond gets ejected. Golden State still finds a way to tie the game, but again, Sacramento was just able to get more shots up. They were able to make some, and then Steph had a couple of turnovers, and here we are. It's 2-0. I'm not going to sit here and panic because Golden State is the worst road team in the NBA, if not one of the worst road teams. They're definitely the worst road team in the playoffs. Now, when you flip it to the other side, they're just as good on their home floor. They are the third best record at home, sitting at, if I'm not mistaken, 33-8 at home, as opposed to 11-30 on the road, which is just abysmal. I'm still gonna, unfortunately, I'm still gonna go out and I'm gonna pick the Kings for Game 3 because the absence of Draymond and what he brings to the table just cannot be replaced, even through Golden State's deep bench. Jordan Poole has not played very well this series. He was 1 of 7 last game. He's a defensive liability, and he's just not able to do anything when it comes to being on the floor on the opposite end. If it's not putting up 20, 30 points off the bench, we already know what he's going to give you on the defensive end. He's probably going to allow a decent amount of points to the opposing person's guard, if not whoever he gets switched on. You're going to have to rely on Gary Payton Jr. He's going to get an increased amount of minutes because of Draymond's presence. Kuminga's going to get a lot of minutes at his young age as well, and I don't know if those players are going to be able to provide you what Draymond does as a unit. So Steph is going to have to step up and go for maybe 30-plus points. Clay and Wiggins, they've scored 20 in each of the last couple contests. They're going to have to go for 20-plus again, if not maybe push the envelope for 30. You're going to need to see people like DiVincenzo and Jordan Poole and Moody step up. I don't know, man. Golden State just doesn't look the same. They're putting up points when it matters, but they're not able to seal the deal. And defensively, they're just not looking very good. They allowed 41 points in the second quarter last game. So I'm very curious to see what adjustments they make. But with De'Aaron Fox winning the Clutch Player of the Year, which is a new award in the NBA, and how much he has dominated this series thus far, as well as Malik Monk, I think that Sacramento is going to make a statement and potentially have the defending champions on the brink of elimination with a sweep.
Kev, it's very difficult for me to pick this game just because, like you said, Golden State has been one of the best teams in the NBA at home this year. Their record reflects that. And even though that, like you said, they've been probably the worst road team that we've seen, not only in just the playoffs currently, but throughout the entire regular season. Even though that they've lost those last two games, they've been competitive nonetheless. And you make a couple buckets here and there, you get some stops on the defensive side. You know, maybe we're looking at a 1-1 series, but the Kings have been the team that they've been able to finish late in these fourth quarters, knock down some big buckets to get them these wins. And Golden State, they just can't get into a rhythm, especially late, to really close the gap and close the deficit because they're always playing catch up. It's not as if Sacramento is the one playing catch up where they're down 10, 15 points and they're making these huge fourth quarter rallies. They had that similar situation in game one, but that was in the third quarter. In the fourth quarter, it was just back and forth. But I think when the series does transition back to San Francisco for game three, Kevin, I'm with you. I'd go with the Kings on this one. But if they win this game, I think it's going to be by the skin of their teeth. I think it's going to be a very competitive game. So, looking back at game two was very competitive. I thought that even though the Warriors lost that game, I thought they had some chances to win that one. But to me, the biggest factor was not De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk winning the game for Sacramento. It was their role players. I thought that Davion Mitchell, I thought that Harrison Barnes, those two in particular, they stepped up incredibly large in that game. And you juxtapose it to what Golden State had. As Steph did his thing, Clay did pretty good. Andrew Wiggins had a better night, even though that he missed some shots and some of those misses were pretty bad. It's just when you look at the biggest missing piece to this whole equation with Golden State, it's got to be Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole, like Kev said, has been struggling mightily throughout this whole series. And I think there is a chance for him to kind of reverse the trend going into game 3 now that the series is back at home. I would expect him to have a better game than what he's been having the last 2 games, but he's got to get into a rhythm. And if he doesn't, which at this point, it's a high likelihood that, maybe he's not going to get out of this funk that he's been in, just because he looks like he's been out of sorts the entire playoff series so far. We'll see what happens with Jordan, but I still think that Steph's going to play well. I still think that Clay and Andrew Wiggins are still going to put up decent chunks, but I'm just going to roll with Sacramento with what they have right now. They have been the better team throughout this series so far, and granted, the margin of error is very slim for both teams, but I think when it comes to the errors that Golden State has committed, the Kings have taken advantage of it, and they've made the most of it. De'Aaron Fox has been playing very consistently so far. Obviously, when you look at Malik Monk, he's a nice number 2 piece right alongside De'Aaron. And then I think Sabonis down low has really given Golden State fits throughout this series, simply just because I don't think that Golden State can really handle just his overall size down low in the paint. And even though that when you look at the rebounding categories, it was essentially the same. Both Golden State and Sacramento had the same number of rebounds overall, but Sacramento did win the offensive rebounding subcategory of that whole rebounding category. And I wouldn't be surprised with Draymond missing game 3 that actually continues. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sacramento wins the rebounding side of things going into game 3. I think Golden State is going to really put all their chips into the middle of the table here and just go for it, because if they go down 3-0, it's lights out for the series as far as I see it. But I'm going to roll with the Kings. I'm going to roll with the fact that, granted, they are younger. They have less playoff experience than what Golden State has. They've just been the better team so far in the first 2 games. But we'll see what happens. I mean, there's a very good chance that Golden State could get into rhythm and they could just, wipe the floor with the Kings in this game and make it a 2-1 series. There's a very good chance that Golden State could still win this game and make this a series. But I'm going to say that the Kings take a commanding 3-0 lead. And I think it's going to be off the backs of De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk. And then I think you could look at Sabonis. I think Sabonis is going to be huge for them. I think they're going to take advantage of the fact that Golden State's not going to have a lot of defensive. They're not going to have a defensive presence down low to be able to contain him. I think if Kevin Huerter and Davion Mitchell come up with some huge buckets alongside Harrison Barnes, I think that will get them the win. But I think it's going to be a very good game. And if you guys get a chance to watch this one, definitely tune in, because it's definitely going to be a fun game as far as I see it.